Hi, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Julie.
This session is Getting a Grip on Your Emotions, the first session of Couple Talk Part 2, Cracking the Code to Handling Conflict.
For some of you who took a bit of a break between the final session of Part 1 and this session, I say, welcome back. For others of you, this is the 6th session of the 10-session program you are going through from beginning to end. And I say, good to see you again.
And for any of you that skipped Part 1 and are starting your first session with Couple Talk Part 2, go back to Part 1. Part 2 builds upon everything that we learned in Part 1. Sessions 6 through 10 build upon the foundation laid in sessions 1 through 5.
In today's session, Don and Alex give practical ways for couples to avoid making a bad situation worse.
I wish we had learned this stuff before going through what we went through. Thankfully, Couple Talk has helped us avoid getting anywhere close to those dark moments in our marriage.
I totally agree with you. So pull out your workbook, turn to the Getting a Grip on Your Emotions section, and get ready to take some notes that you will refer to again and again.
Here's Don and Alex Flecky.
Welcome to Part 2 of Couple Talk, Cracking the Code to Handling Conflict.
So we are going to cover a number of practical steps that you can take. For instance, if anger is getting a hold of you and taking over, or if you are just beginning to get tense and irritated.
So let's start. Your workbook has a couple of verses, one from Proverbs. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. And in the Psalms, don't sin by letting anger control you. So we know that anger can lead to sin. But anger is a feeling. By itself, it's not right or wrong. But it's what we do with our anger that can be a problem. In your workbook, there are two statements. One is, if someone does something just too awful and I lose it, it's not my fault. Or, no matter what buttons are pushed, my actions are my responsibility. Which do you believe? Which do you act like you believe? No matter what people do to push our buttons, how we behave when we're frustrated or angry is our responsibility. We'll talk a bit about conflict now. Conflict, like anger, is inevitable. We're going to see things differently. We're going to have differences. So conflict is normal, and if we have trouble and differences, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with us or something wrong with our relationship. In fact, it can be healthy. We grow a lot through conflict and through the differences that have to be worked out. So anger is normal, feeling hurt from time to time is normal, fear is normal, and all of those things can be healthy for us. And our response to those can all be skillful.
Now, when you're in a conflict with someone and you start to feel angry or hurt, how do you react? Generally, there are two ways that people tend to react, two typical reactions. The first one is fight, attack. Can't let that issue go, have to deal with it right now. I am an attacker.
Yes, she is.
Yes. And others, on the other side of the spectrum, take the flight mode. They want to avoid. It's sort of like this, can't we just get along? We're getting along well, let's not talk about it. It feels too uncomfortable, it'll bring up problems. So what you can see is both sides of that spectrum can cause harm in a relationship. If I'm attacking, I may drag our relationship down. But if he's avoiding, he may not be addressing issues that we need to address in our relationship. So no matter what side of the spectrum you might find yourself falling on, you can use these techniques you'll learn in this session.
And we'll present these techniques using the word picture of a traffic light. Red are things you can do when you or your partner are out of control. Yellow are things you can do to stay in control when you need to proceed cautiously. And green is when the conflict is over to get back on track more quickly. So first, getting a grip when you're in the red zone. What is the red zone? That's when one or both of you can no longer stay skillful. And we'll use that word skillful as we're describing these techniques and skills. So recognize those signs when you're in the red zone. You know, your feelings are just too intense and you're noticing it. In fact, we'd like you to consider, each of you individually, what signs do you notice when you get angry? What do you feel in your body? What changes happen? And we want you to become aware of those signs. So red zone is when you're flooded and there's so much emotion that you're not sure that you are going to be able to behave in the way that you should.
And here's what you do when you find yourself in the red zone. You take a timeout. And research verifies the wisdom of taking a break when you are in this red zone of being flooded with anger. And there are 4 steps to a timeout. First, call a timeout using a timeout signal or phrase. Right. So sometimes couples decide to use a nonverbal signal that just says, got to take a break right now. So you can use your own personal signal or phrase. And it's really a wonderful thing if you can include some reassurance. Like, Don, I think I need to take a time out. We'll work this out later. I need some time to calm down. So you see, just having a touch and a good tone of voice and saying, I'd like to have a time out. I'll be a better listener.
I'll feel better.
Right. So he would feel better about that. He wouldn't feel like I'm abandoning him. He would feel like I do want to work it out and I'm going to go prepare to be a better partner by taking a break. And that second step is take time to calm down. There are examples in your workbook, make your timeout count. And these are a list of strategies that match research on stress management. So it lists a bunch of different ideas that people have used to calm down. Some of them are active, like running, going to the gym, pulling weeds. Some of them are more passive or slower, like maybe journaling or praying or taking a hot bath.
The third point is take time to reflect. Reflect. Look at the reflections during timeout in your workbook. When you can calmly answer these questions, then you're ready to talk. And then finally, keep the appointment to talk. When you call a timeout, it's very important that whatever time you agree to come back and talk with your partner about the issue, you keep that appointment. Sometimes just one of you is in the red zone. They're angry or frustrated about something not involving you at all. What can you do about that? In Galatians, it says, carry one another's burdens. In this exercise, help you do that. Turn in your workbook to the exercise called Share Your Partner's Burden. In this exercise, you will vent. You'll talk about your feelings, your thoughts, your worries about a situation that frustrated or angered you. Your partner will listen and summarize with empathy. And your partner will not do any fixing, no solutions, no giving of opinions, no commenting or asking questions. Your partner just empathizes with your experience, just steps into your world and connects. And they'll give empathy in the I form.
Now, the topic that you will choose for this exercise cannot involve your partner directly and cannot involve your partner's blood relative. So that means you cannot vent about your father-in-law or your brother-in-law, and you cannot vent about your children. So we're going to do a demonstration now, and Don has something he's going to vent about. It has nothing to do with me. I probably wasn't even there, and he's going to vent, and I'm going to listen with empathy. We'll do a few turns, and then have you do this exercise.
Okay. And I'll be venting, so I'll hold the expression stick. I just want to vent a little bit about something that happened just the other day. I pride myself on being a guy who can find my way anywhere and knows where I'm at all the time. And I was driving, and because of some construction, I missed a turn and went the opposite direction from where I was supposed to go. And I didn't realize it for quite a while, went probably 10 miles out of the way. It happened to be a time when I was in a hurry and needed to get somewhere.
So as Don, I am a really good driver, and I know my way around really well. The kids even still call me up and say, how can I get somewhere? And I have to give them directions really quickly. And so I was on the freeway, and what happened was there was some construction in the way, and there were some signs that somehow maybe were out of place, and so I ended up not where I was expecting to go.
Yeah, I made a wrong turn and ended up going like 10 miles out of the way when I was under pressure for time and needed to be somewhere. And then I had to turn around and go back the other 10 miles just to catch where I had missed the turn, and was late to where I wanted to go. And that was really a frustration for me on a bunch of levels.
So as Don, I went out of my way, and then I had to find my way back, and it made me late, and I was really frustrated. Okay, so you saw Don demonstrate one side, and then it would be my turn to then take the expression stick and vent about something that was frustrating me.
So now it's your turn. We want you to choose a topic, and each of you will vent to the other. And we would like you to turn your chairs so that you're facing each other knee to knee, and we'll let you know when we're halfway through. We'll let you know when there's a minute left, and the music will come up as it's time to return to the group. Ready, go.
All right, let's take a moment to practice what we've learned.
Turn and face each other so you're knee to knee.
Go to the page numbers shown on the screen and begin the exercise.
you're halfway done. If you haven't done so already, it's time to switch roles. You've got just one more minute.
Time to return to the group. Dawn and Alex are getting ready to start up again.
Okay, we're going to have you go into your workbook and reflect on a couple of questions. What if your partner could or would give you the gift of empathy whenever you asked for it? How would that change things? Okay. Go ahead and write in your book. We'll give you a minute for that.
On your own, complete the quick debrief.
Now we'd like to hear a bit from you. How was this venting exercise? How'd that go? Tia?
I liked it because I can vent a lot, and I tend to just have all these words spewing and go on for minutes, and then sometimes he'll understand me and he's listening, but he won't really say anything. So then it makes me feel like I'm not being listened to, and then I get upset about it. So the fact that they have to repeat it back and listen and engage, I just feel like now we're in this together instead of me just saying all these things and not having anything afterwards.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Imagine your partner's just come home from work from a terrible day. Wouldn't it be a sweet gift to give to them if you were just available to let them vent, let them share their rough day, tell you about it, and not have them hear you criticize or advise or say, well, why didn't, or question what was going on? I mean, it's a sweet, incredible gift that we can give to each other, because we all have times like that, and now you know how to do it. You have the ability now to give that gift to each other. So turn to your partner and take 1 minute and share your answers to those questions that you wrote in the workbook. Go.
Turn and talk to your partner about how this exercise was for you.
Now we're going to turn to another important time when you need to get a grip on your emotions.
And this is when you are in the yellow zone. And that is a time when you feel things getting tense, or you're irritated and you want to proceed cautiously. So what do you do when you find yourself in the yellow zone? You're getting frustrated inside and irritated, and you have this idea that things may not go so well right now. If we don't do something, our conversation might be going downhill. Well, the first thing you can do is let your partner know by using a yellow zone signal or phrase. And what you can do is create a signal between the two of you that lets you know that there's a little bit of irritation going on inside of you. You perhaps are starting to feel a little disrespected, and you both need to kind of proceed real cautiously. So you can even just say, I'm in the yellow zone. You could just use that. A couple of times Dawn and I have used that. I said to you, if you're not out of the shower soon, I'm going to be in the yellow zone.
So when you recognize you're getting irritated, you're in the yellow zone, there are a couple of things you can do. Respect is something we should do for our partners 100% of the time. There's not a time when we should be disrespectful. 24/7, all the time, respect. Even when you feel your partner doesn't deserve it or you're upset with them, be respectful. It's your commitment to the relationship to be respectful all the time, even in conflict. And it's your commitment to God, the way that you treat others, including your partner.
So remember, even if you are angry, show respect. Even if you're in a bad mood, show respect. And third, think about when you get tense or irritated. What feeling is inside of you? Are you feeling angry, or is it because you're feeling offended, or you're hurt, or you're feeling devalued in some way? We'll give you a moment to write that feeling that puts you into the yellow zone. Write it down, and that will be your signal to you to become aware of giving your partner this yellow zone signal when you're feeling that feeling. So just take a moment. And let me just tell you, for me, it's hurt. If I'm feeling hurt, I'm in that yellow zone. And it's really a good idea for me to give Don that signal. So just take a few moments and write that feeling.
Now we have an exercise called Respect in Conflict. What happens when the two of you have conflict? What things do you do and say to each other? Which of those things help and feel respectful to you, or which of them cause you to feel disrespected?
In your workbook, there's a list of typical behaviors that happen during conflict. For instance, loud voice, screaming, interrupting, hurtful humor, walking away, giving unwanted advice, you statements, withdrawing. So some of these signals or some of these behaviors are nonverbal, like rolling of your eyes or walking out of the room. Other ones are verbal, like sarcasm or trigger words. So we'd like you to look over that list of behaviors just to become familiar with the kinds of things that happen during conflict.
And the purpose of the exercise is for you to have a couple talk about what feels respectful or disrespectful to you in conflict. And we're going to do a demonstration now.
So I will demonstrate by talking about my point of view when we have a conflict. So let me get the expression stick and I'll say, when I think about times that we have a conflict, have disagreements, something that you do that causes me to feel respected is when you make eye contact with me as I'm talking about my point of view.
So as Alex, I feel respected when we have conflict. I feel respected when you make eye contact.
And as I think about times we have conflict and we're in a disagreement, something that you do that causes me to feel disrespected is when I hear you use the word should. You know, that I should do something or I should believe something or act in some way. And I end up feeling controlled by that.
So in those times of conflict, as Alex, it bothers me when you tell me should, that I should do something. And that makes me feel like I'm being controlled.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when it comes to having conflict or disagreement, something that I would like for you to do, or a couple of things, would be to continue doing that good eye contact. That's important to me. And then also to change the should to something like, you know, I think of it this way, or I prefer, or I wonder if you do such and such. An I message like that. That would, I think, really help that reaction that I have that's negative when I hear that.
So what would help for me in conflict is to keep doing the eye contact. I like that. But instead of the should, to replace that with I suggest or I'd like it if. And that would really take away that feeling of being controlled.
Great, right. Mm-hmm. So that's an example of one turn. And then what Don would do is write down the things he learned that he can do to show respect. So there's a place in your workbook for him, for your partner, the one who's been listening with empathy, to write down the things they've learned about what to do in the next conflict and in your conflicts to show respect.
So now it's your turn. We're going to ask you to have that kind of a dialogue together. So we'll have you turn your chairs and face each other knee to knee. We'll give you some time on the clock and let you know when it's a minute away and then when it's time to come back to the group. Ready, go.
Turn knee to knee with your partner and start the exercise.
halfway done.
This is the final minute, so begin wrapping it up. Time to return to the group. We're getting ready to start up again.
Okay, we're going to have you mark in your workbook. Reflect on how you feel after doing this exercise. This may have been a little sensitive. So mark in your workbook. We'll give you a minute to do that.
Look at your workbook and mark the debrief on your own.
Okay, so now we'd like to take a minute and find out how that exercise was for you. Yeah, you were talking about conflict, might have been a little bit tough, so we'd like to hear from some of you. Jarrell.
For me, it's difficult to kind of dig up those emotions and to think back to conversations or conflicts and to think like, she's saying that this is offensive to her or this hurts her, and like to know that I'm doing something that causes that. But also it's very helpful because in the moment of the conflict, you don't want to hear that these things are hurtful. So it's like we're not like arguing right now, so it's easy to kind of bring that up so that you can kind of be preemptive about it in the future.
Take care of it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Now take a minute and talk to your partner about how that exercise was for you. Ready, go.
Go ahead and talk to your partner.
into the green zone. That's when you're feeling calm and you're ready to talk about the issue. Number one is keep talking. Keep your appointment to talk after a timeout.
And I'm glad you're the one who is saying that.
That's right, yeah. Well, I tried getting away from it and I couldn't do it. So now you have to keep the appointment. Number two, reconnect if you are feeling distant after a difficult couple talk. Sometimes you resolve an issue, but there are lingering negative feelings that are still there. What do you do about that? What you can do is to reconnect and reaffirm your commitment to each other.
In your workbook are some statements that you can choose to help you reconnect. For instance, there could be appreciations. You could appreciate your partner's effort at listening to you or at being open during your couple talk.
Yeah, so those are techniques, strategies to use when you're in the green zone. Things are going well. Right? Now, you've been dealing with some really important stuff here in dealing with conflict. Let's face it, that's at the core of relationships, right? Dealing with conflicts. And I'd like to take time now to bring us to a couple's prayer time. So I'd like to have you sit close to each other. If you'd like to hold hands, feel free to do so. And I will give prompts for you to pray, and I'll ask each of you to silently pray along with me. Let's pray. Ask God to help you remember to be respectful in conflict. Ask God to help you do the hard work of working through conflicts. Lord, we've all got these natural responses to feeling hurt or angry, and some of them damage our partner. So I ask you to help all of us to catch ourselves, to notice when we're falling into one of those patterns, and ask for your help to give us the strength and the awareness to change that pattern and to be kind and respectful to each other. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
So we've been cracking the code to handling conflict, and we've been learning to get a grip on our emotions in this session.
And cracking the code in everyday life. In your workbook, you'll see the goal is making conflict a matter of differences of perspective rather than war. Differences of perspective.
So it's war if it's like this, and it's only like this. It's differences of perspective if we take turns looking over each other's shoulders and working through the issue that way.
To do this, remember two things. Control your emotions. Don't let them control you. And your response is your responsibility. And now we've spent a whole session talking about conflict and maybe some difficult things. Let's take time now to give each other appreciations. So we'll ask you to turn your chairs toward each other so you're sitting knee to knee, and each of you give an appreciation to the other. And I'll give you a quick review. This is where you tell your partner something that you admire or appreciate about them, or something they've done for you recently, and they will summarize back with empathy using the you form. You appreciate that I such and such. Okay? And then after that's done, you'll reverse roles, and your partner will give an appreciation to you. All right? So turn your chairs and give each other some appreciation.
Get knee to knee with each other and start the exercise.
You're halfway there. Turn back to the video. We're getting ready to start.
Well, we've begun cracking the code to handling conflict. In this session, you learned about getting a grip on your emotions.
And the next session will be digging deeper during disagreements. So we'll see you next time.